Welcome back, everybody, to another Q&A with Dr. J. If you're a regular watcher of the Q&As, then you will know that Dr. J is the founder and CEO of a company called MyHappyGenes, a genetic testing company, which is unique because it uses your biochemistry as well as your genetic profile to get to the root cause of what's ailing you. Or if you want to know why you can't find a mate or stick with a mate, or you're attracted to a whole bunch of people, which is the subject of this month's topic. And why is it the subject of this month's topic? Because it's the month of February, and that has Valentine's Day in it. So, Dr. J, I want you to tell the listeners about the aspects of our genetic profile that have to do with love and lust and connection.
Yeah, it's a really amazing topic and one of my very favorites because there are so many genetic variants that can contribute to this. And I think that's not well known. One of the biggest love hormones is oxytocin, and it's an incredibly interesting molecule, and it's secreted by the posterior pituitary. It's the bonding hormone, so when we are, as women, when we're about to give birth, lots of oxytocin is secreted that allows our uterus to contract and push out a baby, which is great, but it also has this ability to change our brains to this massive amount of love that we feel for this brand new that comes out of us. It's a feeling unlike any other, the connection between a mother and a baby, if the oxytocin is secreted correctly. And for some women, it isn't, and genetically, they don't make a lot of oxytocin, or maybe they were given Pitocin, which is a similar molecule, to have to give birth. But those women that don't bond to their babies, which is a very unusual thing, but it does happen, often they're very low in oxytocin. And so it's evolutionarily, it's a really important molecule, but it has a lot to do with how much love we feel. And there are genetic variants that give us a wide range of levels in people. And so some people are really high in oxytocin, and they're so outgoing and loving, and they bond to a lot of people. Other people are very low in oxytocin, and you don't get that connection with them. It's like, hello, nobody home kind of thing. And I talk to a lot of women who look at their husbands and they go, God, I don't understand why he isn't more loving and connecting and cuddly. It's called the cuddle hormone, basically. And often can inherit genetic variants that don't allow their bodies and brains to make a lot of oxytocin. And so it makes them a little less cuddly. And so we often wonder why.
So there are also female partners that wouldn't be seen. A man might have more, a woman might have less, and he might be saying, I thought this woman was going to be, or even couples, female, female, male, male. One person may not have that same level that the other person is looking for.
Yes. And here's another really interesting thing. The higher your testosterone level is, the lower your oxytocin is. They're antagonists. And so manly men that we're attracted to, or somebody who's taking testosterone, let's say, or even women, that are more masculine, can override the oxytocin, and often they'll feel a little less connective. And evolutionarily, it's kind of an interesting thing, because if you think about, men are the ones who go to war and fight and are aggressive. Testosterone has that reputation of being sort of the aggressive hormone. And if they were too high in oxytocin, they would have trouble killing their enemy. They'd be like, oh no, what did I just do? So it's got an evolutionary advantage, that opposite molecule, but it's really rough when we as women, or some women, I should say, are attracted to that manly men who's high in testosterone and has a great sex drive. But then when we get into relationships with them, we wonder where's the connection here? There's just no real deep connection. And when I talk to couples, when I look at their genetic profiles together, I'll point this out, and we can show real quickly. I want to show a result of one of our sliders, and this is the lack of empathy and emotional bonding slider, essentially. But it's the level of oxytocin that this person has. And the higher into the green it is, the more oxytocin they make, the more empathy they have, and the more deep their emotional bonding would be. And so, when I look at these reports for people and I go, wow, your husband or your wife or whatever is way up here in the red, which means that genetically they don't make a lot of oxytocin, and they may be a really good person, And you may be wondering why do I not feel this connection with this person? It could be because they just genetically don't make a lot of oxytocin, and they don't have that level of deep emotional connection that we would want.
And is that something you can fix by knowing about it? Can you take certain nutrients or something?
Yeah, there are some things that move the needle a little bit. With testosterone, as men age, it's
Yeah.
really interesting. Their testosterone goes down and they often become more connective, which is
Mm.
kind of fascinating. But there are certain nutrients that can increase oxytocin levels, and one of them is a probiotic. So Bacillus rhamnosus, for some reason, increases oxytocin levels. But so does hugging, so does connecting, sex increases oxytocin levels, petting dogs. That's the love hormone. So the more you use it, the more it's secreted by your body. So it's kind of fascinating. And the other love hormone or pair bonding hormone is vasopressin. And that's really about pair bonding, how strong a bond you have. So two different things. You can have love and connection and a deep connection with a person, but not be committed. And vasopressin, if your levels are low, it often means that you could be attracted and connected to a lot of people and not really faithful to your particular pair bond, let's say. So it's kind of fascinating that, not to take the guilt off of or
Right. There is personal responsibility.
there's personal responsibility there, but it's good to know that, oh, wow, that's a tendency here. Social conditioning can override that, of course, but if you wonder why, this person seems to love a lot of people. So it's a fascinating combination of love hormones.
Yeah, and you showed me a diagram before of the 3 stages of love, I guess it was. We share
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, let me show that. And these are the different hormones that are involved in the different kind of stages of love. So in lust, it's the testosterone. Again, that high testosterone level, evolutionarily, we women tend to be attracted to men who are strong and, can make them feel safe and secure. Estrogen also is involved in lust, and especially for men attracted to women that are a little bit higher in estrogen. The attraction phase, then dopamine is secreted, norepinephrine, those reward hormones are secreted during the attraction stage. And then the attachment, though, back to the oxytocin and vasopressin. So, if during that lust phase we're going, oh my God, this man is so amazing. He's tall, dark, and handsome, and he's so sexy and attentive. And then after the attraction and lust wear off, if there's not enough oxytocin and vasopressin there, it could be really disappointing, especially to women who want a deeper connection, or men too. I don't mean to be sexist here because it can go both ways, as you pointed out, that those people that are higher in oxytocin can be matched with somebody who's lower in oxytocin, and it can be a little bit unfulfilling. Let's put it that way.
So we can't blame this on the gender factor alone. Men are one way, women are another way.
No, not, but it's good to know. I think it's just compassion giving. Again, I had a couple that I worked with, and she kept saying, he just doesn't connect. I just don't feel like he sees me or understands me or connects. And I said, well, come here and look. His oxytocin levels are way up here, but he's a really good man. He was a good provider, honest, faithful. He had a lot going for him. He just didn't have that capacity for a deep connection. And I said, as long as you can understand it, it's not about you. I think we tend to take it personally sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's not about you. He's just not made that way. His brain doesn't work the same way as yours. And so that's the compassion piece when we look at the differences in people.
I see an alliance between the love languages and MyHappyGenes for couples. I remember when you did my husband's profile, I had already had mine done, and I was just sitting there while you went through everything with him. And we weren't necessarily looking at these 2 hormones, but we were looking at something, and I went, wow, that's why that is, right? I don't even remember what it was, but the report gave me insights into something that he has a tendency for, so that I could, once I'm aware of that, I can either be watchful to help him, or I can say, let me just back off. That's just who he is, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the beauty of having these reports and the genetic profile with somebody else. So do you have any advice for people as we enter into the love season? and they may not know their genetic profile. In general, what can you leave the listeners with?
Well, it's back to the compassion piece, and I often return there because I think, again, we tend to take things personally, and if we can say, oh, you know what, this may be, he might or she might have this particular genetic variant, and it isn't about me, and having compassion for their own empathy levels, or empathy level than their partner, then maybe they can find friendships that kind of balance out that need for deep connection, instead of putting so much on our partner, who might be a really good person, but just not built the same way. So
Mhm. Excellent advice. People, if you've enjoyed this Q&A, there are a lot more on our YouTube channel. If you're not there yet, go over there and subscribe, and head over to the website, myhappygenes.com, download our free ebook, which has so many great success stories. So much is rooted in your genetic profile, not determined. It doesn't determine how your life is going to play out. All the information you need to make that decision is at myhappygenes.com. We'll be back with another Q&A soon.
thank you, GC.
You're welcome.